KK has gone much deeper into things of public finance, talking about securitizing pending bills, an infrastructure bank. You know, they've gone into much more detail on the public finance side, so they're a bit specific on that. But I take Wanjiru's point, by the way. I think there's an important point on the governance. They've instrumentalized it. So there's no underpinning philosophy. Yeah. It's about instruments. Governance is an instrument, right? There are no underpinning values. I think that's a very important point, especially since, in fact, I wanted to make this point. In the forward to the manifesto, the Deputy President says he wants to do three things. Defend the Constitution, institutionalize our politics, and create jobs. It would be very interesting to see what that means.
Okay, Sheila, you haven't said anything. I don't know what you see in front of us if any of these two people were to get to power. What distinctions do you see, especially from where you sit?
Well, first, I just want to, if I reflect back on the Jubilee Manifesto and why there were some, can I call them, some promises were dead on arrival, was because they really didn't look at the legislative and policy institutional framework. What is the current framework? That's something that I feel a lot of them are not looking at, even as they make certain promises, and that is where a lot of them will struggle. So all the promises, when you look at Kenya Kwanza, Azimio, Agano, some for Jaco, I don't agree with many of them, but they're good. They're good. I mean, if they're good in an ideal world, but then the practicalities of what is the current framework, both institutional policy and legislative for our country that they're not looking at. Particularly when I look at, can I go back to my pet topic on corruption?
Yes, yeah.
And I, like, for instance, like the DP is talking about giving financial and operational independence to institutions like, those responsible for fighting corruption, the judiciary, and so on, which is good, and which, as we have said, has been a problem, that most of these don't have the resources and even the independence, the muscle to be able to operate. But then there are certain challenges that we've seen, and I've not heard them talk about how they will address some of these challenges to their institutional, functional, financial independence of these institutions. Yeah. But for me, primarily as well, I think that when it comes to the issues around corruption, I still feel like they've looked so much on the issues around enforcement, but we're not looking at prevention. And for as long as we're not looking at fighting corruption from a prevention lens, we'll always be fighting.
Okay.
Yeah, and chasing after the money. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about how they will actually prevent. And one classic way of starting to prevent corruption is by ensuring that people who have been accused, there I go with my song, people who have been accused of corruption don't get anywhere near public office.
So Horton, you have only 1 minute, within which we hope someone will arrive. But you have the last word on this one before we take the break to go to the
maybe allow me to keep speaking until somebody shows up, right?
You have exactly 1 minute.
Yeah, I think what folks have said is, I would agree with much of what everybody said. I think, 6 months ago there was no galvanizing idea in the political space. I think we now have some ideas that are fairly cogent, they're clear, they're inspirational, they're aspirational. Of course, we're waiting to see budgets and schedules and the first 100 days, first 180 days and so on. But I think the harder questions will be, for example, what do we do with the parastatals that continue to drain the coffers? What are we going to do with the fact that we have huge recurrent expenditure bills in terms of staffing? Okay. What are we going to do with this pension that Jubilee had, which was to create infrastructure everywhere?
And I think
so these are some of the challenges.
And we can only get some of those questions, hopefully, inside the hall, because we want to take that break right now. And when we come back in the next couple of minutes, we'll be inside the auditorium to hear what the candidate who's arrived has for us, hoping that the other one will arrive at some point. But here we are, taking that break for the second and final debate of the night.
Linda familia, na marafiki dhidi ya magonjwa.
The UHC coverage journey is on. NHIF is working under the guidance of the Ministry of Health in the UHC Step Up, which presents an opportunity to secure Kenyans access to quality health services without suffering financial hardship. So take the bold step today and safeguard your families by enrolling to NHIF to ensure health for all.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Moses Kulia, mkaaji wa hapa Bomboruru, ambao tunafanya na kazi na hii sako yetu ya Geno Sako, ambao ruti yetu ni Bomboruru Saba Seri. Kwa hii kadi ya bima nilichukua 2013, ambapo imeshanisaidia 2018, ambapo bibi yangu alikuwa anajifungua. Tulienda hospitali tukatibiwa, tukahudumiwa vizuri, alafu wakati wa kutoka hatukuitishwa kitu. Kwa hivyo ningemhimiza makondakta wote na madriver wajiandikishe kwa hii bima yetu, ambapo itakuwa inawasimamia.
Linda familia na marafiki dhidi ya magonjwa.
What is a secondary school in Kenya? It ranges from 106 high-cost national schools educating 3% of the learners, where you find ultra-modern libraries and laboratories, the most experienced principals and teachers, and the best teacher-student ratios. To 7,019, some barely established, understaffed, lacking basic facilities, sub-county schools, educating over 60% of learners. Given that KCSE is the most consequential examination in our education system, isn't it fair that we level the ground for all learners to excel by narrowing the capacity gaps between the worst and best schools to deliver quality education? Usawa Agenda calls for a sub-county schools upgrading program and a change from the capitation model to enable small schools to grow. Without these SDG children.
Leaders don't need to have all the answers. Ordinary people often do, if leaders will just listen. Each year, patients who can't pay hospital bills are detained in hospitals against their will.
Kwa majina naitwa Maimuna Auru. Nilienda hospitali kujifungua, nikakuwa sina pesa, nikakuwa niko detained for 24 days. Niliacha watoto wangu nyumbani wakiteseka, na ile kitu naambia serikali kuwa kila Mkenya yuko na haki ya afya. Ule awe ako na pesa awe hana pesa, ana haki ya kudumisha afya na kuwa na afya njema.
Each year, 186 men are lawfully killed and 30 disappear while in police custody before they get to court.
Kwa jina naitwa Hussein Moyo Monte. Mimi ndo baba wa marehemu Yasin Hussein Moyo, ule aliyepigwa risasi na polisi wakati wa corona akiwa kwa balkoni yao. Na hiyo ni kitu inaniumiza sana, na mimi ningeomba maafisa wa polisi waache kuchukua sheria mkononi mwao, kupiga watu na kuwavunja, na wafai kuwa juu ya sheria, wanafaa kuwa chini ya sheria kama vile sisi raia tunatimiza hadi vile serikali imeweka. Na mimi nashangaa na maafisa ni watu wametoka kwa jamii yetu, yani ni mandugu zetu, ni madada zetu, na wafai kutupiga na kutuumiza, wanafaa tupeleke mahakamani.
August 9th, 2022 offers us a turning point. 1. Turn up and vote. Your vote counts. It's actually the only thing that does in an election. 2. Choose and then hold your leaders accountable. 3. Join the movement of people who stand up against human rights violations. Become a member of Amnesty Kenya today at www.amnestykenya.org.
I think the most important quality of a leader is wisdom, so that the decisions that are being made now, he knows how, it's like a chess player who sees 10 moves ahead.
Unajua wakati ambapo mlipa ushuru alipa ushuru wake, anataka aone angalau kazi ya pesa yake ambayo anailipia. Pesa tunaamini kwa zinaishia kwa mifuko za watu binafsi.
I think it's important that wealth is declared frequently, and if people have found ways to accumulate wealth very quickly, absolutely good for them, as long as, of course, that is done honestly and ethically.
We need leaders who are well educated to understand the challenges that we face in the modern world.
Kwa mfano mtu mwenye amesomea ukandarasi wa barabara, mkiwa na kiongozi ambaye amesomea hiyo taaluma, una uhakika kwamba barabara za eneo lako zitakuwa zina usimamizi mzuri.
Check it. Let's talk about banking. Or let's talk about dreams and goals. Your dreams, your goals.
If you're like Louise, you value doing biz with ease. Or maybe you're like Dan, a family man with a plan. At Diamond Trust Bank, it starts with one dream, one goal, one deposit, and one transaction. Pamoja, let's make it happen. So don't just bank with us, bank on us.
My core experience can be summarized in a nutshell as one of transformation. I think once I joined this campus, I didn't have a vision of where I wanted to be. I didn't know who I was and what I wanted to do with my life. And I feel like the environment and the people who've mentored me along the way have enabled me to find out who I am and have helped me figure out where I want to go in this life. They have a good quality education, which I 100% vouch for.
Enroll at Catholic University of Eastern Africa for courses in nursing, law, business, economics, computer science, education, community health and development, actuarial science, international relations, counseling psychology, regional integration and theology. September intake ongoing at Langata and Eldoret campuses. Email admissions@quer.edu or visit quer.edu. Quer, for innovative, marketable graduates.
Karibu CAM. By offering market linkages, networking opportunities and technical assistance, Kenya Association of Manufacturers assists its members to grow and scale up their businesses. Join us and let us work together to grow the manufacturing sector. Becoming a CAM member is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Kenya Association of Manufacturers, driving global competitiveness.
Good evening and welcome to the Pope Paul VI Learning Resource Center at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa here in Nairobi. My name is Eric Latif of Spice FM and KTN News.
And I'm Yvonne Okwara of Citizen Television. Welcome to the second of two presidential debates between the four presidential candidates cleared to run for president in the forthcoming election. This is the last of 6 national televised debates organized through a joint media presidential debates initiative bringing together literally the entire Kenyan media fraternity.
The candidates participating in the debate tonight have agreed to the rules and guidelines requiring them to conduct themselves with utmost decorum, address each other with respect, and extend honor to viewers watching this debate live across all of Kenya's broadcast media platforms.
The candidates in the debate have also agreed to observe the highest standards of ethics in their conduct on the debate platform. The candidates are not permitted to carry or refer to their mobile phones or to wear any listening devices, including earphones. Medically recommended hearing aids are exempt from this rule. But luckily, we have confirmed that none of the candidates is on a hearing aid.
Ethics and guidelines also remind the candidates that they shall not carry to the debate platform any written material, whether books or journals, manifestos, or any articles, including even handwritten notes.
Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement, 2 minutes to answer a question, and 60 seconds for a rebuttal. The topics have been carefully selected after a thorough assessment of the state of our nation and the sentiments of the Kenyan voters in various parts of the country.
In line with the debate rules and best practice, the questions we shall be asking tonight have not been shared with any of the campaign teams, neither were they discussed or formulated in conjunction with anyone. The questions we shall be asking tonight are entirely our own.
An invited audience seated here in the auditorium has also agreed to the debate rules. They have been fully briefed that cheers, jeers, or any other form of noise is not permitted during the debate. The audience has also agreed to the request and requirement to maintain order and civility right through this debate.
This debate was to feature 2 leading presidential candidates, Raila Odinga of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Party and William Ruto of the United Democratic Alliance, UDA. We have, however, received written notification from the Raila Odinga campaign that he shall not be taking part in this debate.
Indeed, but in keeping with the traditions of the Joint Media Presidential Debates Initiative since 2013, the debate is on. And we now make one exception to permit the audience here in the auditorium to help us welcome Dr. William Ruto, the UDA presidential candidate, to the stage.
Your Excellency Deputy President, Honorable Ruto, thank you very much for honoring Kenyans with this appearance. We shall conduct a series of question and answer, and whose topics have already been shared with you. We'll give you 2 minutes to begin with your opening statement before we go to the main thrust of the questions tonight.
Thank you very much. William Ruto, a husband, to my dear wife Rachel, who is in this audience, a father, to my children who are also joining me this evening in this debate, the sitting Deputy President of Kenya, a presidential candidate in this election, and I have come here to participate in this debate because I have presented myself as a presidential candidate, knowing very well where our country is. We are a country that is faced with mounting challenges, We have a huge track record of what we have achieved, but there is tremendous opportunity out there for more to be achieved. I believe that this is a Mama Mboga moment. We have 5 million young people who are not working. We have 15 million Kenyans who today are blacklisted in CRB. We have 10 million citizens who have no access to credit in the micro and small enterprise sector. And I believe I am the candidate with a plan to be able to get Kenya to the next level.
Thank you, Honorable Ruto, for your opening statement. Let's get right into the first topic of discussion here tonight, and that is the cost of living, something that many Kenyans are concerned about tonight. At the moment, Honorable Ruto, we currently have 3 subsidies in place on fuel, on unga, on fertilizer, all aimed at dealing with the cost of living. Do you believe that subsidies are the way to go and are the right approach at this moment to deal with this issue?
I believe that subsidies can alleviate the problem to an extent, especially when we find ourselves in the situation where we are. My position is that we find ourselves at this port because there are certain things we didn't do right. We had a Big Four plan because we foresaw this situation. We were here in 2017. We decided then that it is proper to formulate a plan that included matters food security. If you look at the 4 pillars of the Big Four plan, one of them was agriculture and food security and nutrition. Unfortunately, that plan fell apart. It was actually sabotaged. So we find ourselves in this space because, one, we didn't capitalize our agricultural sector. We actually removed the fertilizer subsidy program that existed, which we just reinstated, I think, 3 months ago. Why did we withdraw it in the first place? Because to deal with the cost of living, you just have to increase agricultural productivity. And to increase agricultural productivity, you need to do 3 things. Number 1, make sure farmers have access to inputs, fertilizer, seeds, pesticides. Make sure the farmers have the necessary capital to be able to do the farming. And 3, make sure they have access to markets that are not rigged. Unfortunately, we didn't do that, and that's why we find ourselves in the situation we're in. So that's why in our plan, as Kenya Kwanza, we have set out with clarity what we need to do. We have put in place a 30 billion revolving fund to make sure that farmers have access to inputs. We have added a 12 billion shilling expenditure on agricultural extension, because it's not just enough to have inputs. It's also important for farmers to use the latest information on how to get our farming right and increase the productivity of every farmer. And the statistics show, with access to fertilizer, with access to certified seed, with access to capital, a farmer who produces 5 bags can produce 15. So we can actually double, if not triple, our agricultural output. What that means is that the 2 million farmers who today are net importers of food themselves can actually produce surplus. And we can make sure that we have sufficient supply that ensures that the prices are reasonable for everybody. So the real solution to the cost of living, especially on matters food, because we all understand the biggest contributor to the high cost of living is the cost of food. The average expenditure of families is 52% of their income. In fact, poorer families spend between 60 and 65% of their income on food. So dealing with the cost of food significantly deals with the challenge of high cost of living.
Honorable Deputy President, if I may just interject, what you say today has also been said by you before. In the